Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy non-denominational holiday, or just Happy Monday evening, guys. We are the only playbook. This is episode 32. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday. I'm Sweetcar. I got Shashot, Shovit. What's going on, guys?
Doing pretty good, man. Holidays is a wrap, and now it's just getting over with New Year's and getting closer to the playoffs and Super Bowl.
Nice. I like how you said rap there. It just triggered me because you rap
Pun
stuff
intended.
on Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as nice as the holidays were, this was like the worst week for major injuries, or at least worst month. A lot of people have been dropping like flies, and we lost some serious names this weekend as well.
Yeah.
COVID and other injuries as well, right?
Season-ending injuries.
Yeah, a lot of players come off the board here early in games or prior to kickoff and now out for season. So we'll obviously jump into all of that. Unfortunate or fortunate for people who are playing against them in the fantasy footballs, whichever way you were looking. But I know we got some big in-house fantasy football playoff implications. Shashot's pretty much solidified himself in the finals in our league. Congratulations. Shovit, you are currently projected to win and also clinch a spot in the finals.
Projections don't mean shit.
I know.
Be honest.
I 100% trust me. If there's anybody that understands the skepticism, it's me.
Yeah.
But just so the audience knows what's going on, you're up 10 right now.
Yeah.
You got Devontae Parker tonight, and you have Brett Maher, who is the Saints kicker.
Yeah.
And then you're playing Ayush, who's again down 10, but has Alvin Kamara and has the Dolphins defense.
Yeah. So basically right now, it's 74-74.
Yeah, because Dolphins defense will get 10.
Exactly.
But you got two guys, he's got one.
Right.
But it is Alvin Kamara. And the only reason I even mentioned that is because last year, right around this time, Alvin Kamara put up 6 touchdowns against the Vikings.
Oh, great.
I got a little PTSD from that. I didn't mean to push that on you at all. But anyways, we'll jump into all of this, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're happy to be here. Again, hope you guys enjoyed your holiday. We had a little bit of a holiday special here, our social media giveaway. Again, encouragement to everybody that engaged. Thank you so much for everybody that replied, messaged us. Our social media giveaway for Christmas this year was $10 in Bitcoin to the person that got the closest to whoever was going to score the highest individual performance this week in fantasy football.
20,000 sats.
20,000 sats. Equivalent to $10. Equivalent
That's a lot of sats.
Whatever we said the Bitcoin was going to be worth at $10 when we were recording last episode, it's already changed. That's the beauty of this gift.
Wow.
We could have literally said we're going to give... Yeah, just think about that. That's wild. So thank you for everybody that engaged. Shashot, give us the results. Who do we have here in third place, second place, first place? Who was the highest scorer?
Yeah, so you guys did a great job communicating with us on Instagram as well as on Twitter. And after adding up all the numbers and looking at how things went, T. Higgins ended up scoring the most fantasy points. Who would have thought?
God damn, T.
That
Higgins.
man is on a tear.
Dude, he's
that man's
eating.
on a tear. 43.4 total fantasy points in PPR that's with 12 catches out of 13 targets.
Unreal.
That's insane. So anyways, we had to find out which people guessed closest to that number. Some people got it completely wrong. I think they thought like a total team.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't make sense because, this wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
Because we said like individual.
Yeah.
But anyways, Ben Tillman got the closest with 45.1. DeVij got 38.7. And Asharaya, 36.8. I'm sorry for butchering your name, dude. We go way back. Congratulations on your engagement.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's fantastic. Congrats on that, by the way. I don't know if you've even talked since that's happened for you, but that's awesome. But yeah, also you get $10 in Bitcoin, so don't spend that all in one place with your fiance. DeVij, Bitcoin fucking guru, gets more sats on sats on sats, so just rack up those sats for you. And shout out to Ben. He's been one of the most engaging person on social media with our platform all season.
There's clearly a trend here.
Yeah.
There's clearly a trend. It's the people that like ask us many questions along the way. It's the people within the fantasy football podcast itself. Like, we're the ones in the finals. We're the ones in multiple finals. We're the ones winning giveaways pertaining to football. So it's like, clearly, the more you give a shit about it, the higher your chances are of succeeding.
And the best way to give a shit is to listen to our podcast because we all give a shit. We give tons of shits.
Yeah. And we can't stop shouting out like Tanner, right? Like
Yeah.
Tanner keeps us asking us questions. He's like, "What should I do? Is this guy in? Is this guy out?" And
next year we're gonna have to tell him he's gonna start paying us.
But it keeps us on our toes. We certainly appreciate the engagement. At some point, maybe it'll end up being too much because we'll get too much engagement. But up until that point, Tanner, appreciate everything you've asked us.
Keep up the good work, buddy. Yeah. Keep up the good work. I hope you started Antonio Brown and not started Thielen. I think he did end up not starting Thielen, which is good.
Good on him. Good on him. So thank you so much, Ben Tillman, Davij, and Ashreya. You guys were the 3 closest. You guys are going to get $10 in Bitcoin directly deposited into your crypto wallet. We will message you separately with the details. So again, thank you so much. Merry Christmas, non-denominational holiday, whatever the hell you celebrate. Hope you enjoyed it. So let's kick things off. Dr. Shashot, we'd already touched on it because this is just a revolving door of injuries. What's on the medical report this week?
Okay, so some major injuries first. James Robinson tore his Achilles yesterday, which is out of nowhere, but he did after 3 plays. So he's out for a season, and he's out for anybody's fantasy team. Number 2, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He got injured during the game. They said it was a collarbone injury. And then later in the post-game press conference, they said it was a shoulder injury. They got an MRI of the collarbone, and it was negative. So I think it's more shoulder-related. It's probably like a grade 2 or 3 AC sprain at this point. That's what it looks like. He's week to week. And for us fantasy football people, all that really matters is 1 more week, and that 1 more week he will not be playing. So it's Darrell Williams time once again. So Darrell Williams is going to fit right in, and he gets all the goal line carries. They do use Gore quite often, but between the 20-yard line and the end zone, it is Darrell Williams City.
And they throw the ball to him a lot.
Yeah.
Even this week when Clyde Edwards-Helaire was healthy, they were throwing the ball to him.
Right.
They were throwing the ball to Williams like it was Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, he was a leading receiver for many parts of this game.
Yeah, no, I decided to start him, and he was getting those catches, and so he got me, I think, a solid 10 points on half-point PPR. So, with no CEH, looks like he's going to be the lead guy.
That's like we're talking 17, 18 points.
Yep.
Miles Sanders out for week 17. He broke his hand. Surprise. He comes and he goes. He's like just the epitome of like flipping a coin, like fantasy points or injury. It's just one or the other. So he's out for week 17. Jordan Howard is also banged up. He may also not play, but he has a much higher chance of playing than Miles Sanders does. And if neither of those guys are playing, it's Boston Scott time. Once again, they play the Washington football team, who we should probably remove the word football from that part, and we should just call them Washington team because they don't know how to play football. Jimmy G this morning, this is a pretty significant injury. It said he had a thumb injury and he was expected to play, but he didn't show up in practice. Later, we find out it's a serious thumb injury. He may not even play next week, which, now we're talking hindering the big dude's fantasy points. Like Deebo Samuel's points are concerning. Kittle's already concerning fantasy points are now even more concerning. So we're going to have to keep track of that, see if he just tapes it up and wears glove or whatever. But right now, it's a significant thumb injury.
Does that mean Trey Lance season?
Yeah, it does. That's literally what it means. So
fantasy pickup there for finals.
It's risky, but you never know. We'll have to calculate that when it gets closer to that week. When we find out Jimmy G in fact is not starting. Adam Thielen looked like he was good to go. He had like 5 fantasy points by the second quarter, and then he re-aggravated his ankle. He tried to come back in, caught a pass, then he never came in again in the third quarter. So. Not only do the Vikings miss him, but a lot of fantasy owners are going to miss him for this last game. KJ Osborne is, again, a valuable pickup once again. So there's that. And then Darrell Henderson, this is weird because he sprained his knee during the game, but he was already underutilized that game. So this is not why he performed so poor. He performed poor because he's a backup. So, it's Sony Michel time.
Sony Michel, yeah.
For sure.
That's wild. How the tables have
he
turned.
Learned the playbook. That's all it is. That's literally all it is.
But is Sony Michel that much more talented than Darrell Henderson?
No, I don't think so. But he can handle more like workload. Like Darrell Henderson, his downfall, his whole career has been just getting injured. He's like a smaller back. He's not like typical big guy back. So those guys need complementary football from someone else, and Sony Michel doesn't really need that as much. So I guess the whole their game plan was eventually start Sony Michel, and with that Darrell Henderson injury like a couple of weeks ago, and on the COVID list, they kind of just had perfect timing for Sony Michel to take over, and now they were both healthy, and they still chose Sony Michel. So it looks like it's pretty safe to say Sony Michel will be a valuable start next week in fantasy football. And then just two more things, and then we're going to jump into the COVID list and run through that really quickly. Darren Waller might be able to practice for the first time in many, many weeks this Wednesday, but he was not seen practicing today, and he won't be practicing tomorrow. So desperate people that have little to no tight ends and are just bouncing off, your Darren Waller might be back for you. And then Lamar Jackson. Harbaugh said that we will see as we get to yesterday. Today is Monday. We haven't heard anything yet, so I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but does it really matter at this point? They all seem like the same quarterback that play the same way, and Lamar never really showed us anything interesting for us to be like, let's get Lamar back. So he was kind of on like this downward spiral. Kind of sucks because we didn't see if he could like come back from that, but he should be coming back at least on the football field very, very soon. So that's it as far as like actual injuries to body parts. But now we're talking COVID list. Kareem Hunt is activated off the COVID list, but he still has an ankle issue. So if you're holding on to Dearness Johnson, hold on to him a little bit longer. There's only one more week left, so don't really worry about it too much. Matt LaFleur said there's 3 or 4 new players on the COVID list today, and he did not mention who they were, but he did say they were later going to be released this evening. So in the next couple of hours, we should find out the new 4 Packers that are on the COVID list, and that could be terrible news if there's some big name guys. Mike Evans is now on the COVID list, but he already had a hamstring issue, so a lot of people were already preparing him to not play this week. Mike Williams is also on the COVID list. He is unvaccinated, so he won't be playing this week for sure. Josh Reynolds is on the COVID list. Why do I tell you that? It's not that big of a deal. He's not even targeted that much. Well, he is in the same receiver group as Amon-Ra St. Brown, who has been the number 1 receiver in fantasy for the last 4 weeks. If for some reason, Amon-Ra St. Brown is considered a close contact, he will also not be able to play this upcoming week. He would need 5, depending if he's vaccinated or not. I don't know if he's vaccinated, but he would need a negative, back-to-back negatives within 5 days. So that's the only reason we mentioned Josh Reynolds there. Jared Goff is back from the COVID list. Didn't really seem to hinder St. Brown's fantasy points, but that's what we got as far as the Lions COVID list goes. And then Julio Jones and Westbrook Ikene were added to the COVID list today. That's just, they already only throw to A.J. Brown anyways. I'm not sure if this really matters. And then 3 more things. Rashad Perriman is officially off the COVID list, so he's going to come back to help out Antonio Brown, as well as Tyler Johnson, because those are the only wide receivers they have besides the 2 other tight ends, and their running backs who cannot catch worth crap. And then Allen Robinson got activated. Take that how you want to. Probably not going to be starting him, but he's activated. And then Marlon Mack is on the COVID list. Again, why do I say that? Jonathan Taylor owners got to be a little bit careful in the next few days as far as what can come in the news.
COVID by association.
Yeah.
Exchanging saliva in the locker room.
Oh, that's gross.
Dick taps.
See, that's the kind of shit that you won't get anywhere else. No one else is going to tell you Marlon Mack is on the COVID list because everyone else thinks it does not matter, but it absolutely matters.
Yeah.
It absolutely matters.
Does, because if that's your one person you're relying on heavily, you got to pick up all their backups.
Yep.
Unfortunately for our league, all the backups are gone. So.
Backups are already picked up in our league. It just be like that. Thank you for the injury report, Dr. Shishot. We are sad for all the people that are hurt. We hope all the COVID people come back. Unless you're playing against them, then you probably hope they don't come back. So injuries continue to pile on. Doesn't matter the week. Injuries will be there. So a lot of games to unpack this week, guys. Let's jump right into it. Thursday Night Football kicked us off with the San Francisco 49ers traveling to Tennessee to take on the Titans. San Francisco actually came in here as road favorites, -3. Over-under was 44. And the Titans had kind of been on a downward spiral. Injuries had been completely decimating them, but an impressive victory at home, 20-17 final. Titans win outright as 3-point dogs, under 44 hits. Tennessee's now 10-5. 49ers do drop to 8-7, but they don't lose a single spot in the playoff contention. They're still sitting in the 6th spot in the wild card race. Tennessee's still number 2 at 10-5. So, impressive victory, I thought, at home for the Titans. I think a lot of us were expecting the 49ers to continue to roll. That was not the case. What did you guys see here?
Yeah, I think that impressive victory for sure. The 49ers looked like a complete different team in the first half than the second half. The first half, their defense was stepping up. They were running the ball and throwing the ball really well until the second half comes around and their defense just kind of collapsed. And Titans are able to score. Huge AJ Brown day. I mean, it was like it seemed like every pass that Tannehill was throwing was to AJ Brown, and in the first half, like he kind of looked like he was dropping passes.
Yeah, he dropped like 3 passes. In the
right,
first half.
and in the second half, he just implodes and goes.
That's what happens when you have a
off.
star. Just because they drop the ball a couple times doesn't mean you stop throwing them the ball.
Feeding him, right?
So yeah, for people that started AJ Brown, like I mean, after coming off the injury and things like that, like you got paid basically.
Yeah, there was one actually crazy fact. So we've already had 16 random games this year, right? AJ Brown had the highest percentage of his team's yardage in one single game this year.
Wow.
So like all those big Cooper Cup games and stuff, there were still like other players that had like 70 yards and stuff like that. But this game, I actually haven't looked at it myself, but that's what I saw as far on a stat sheet. So he had 145 yards, and like the next closest receiver had 38 yards.
Yeah.
So as far as like a team like targeting a player goes, he was insanely targeted. 16 targets. The next closest person had 3 targets.
Yep.
So they've made it clear, like when this guy's healthy, they're going to be giving him the ball. And then Derrick Henry might still come back in the playoffs, right? Derrick Henry is maybe 3 weeks away from coming back. So if you have that tandem going, and then, I mean, I would ignore Julio Jones at this point, but if they can get their running backs to start catching some passes too, then they might have a legitimate shot at the thing that we thought they were weakest at, which was like offensive firepower.
Yeah. Deebo Samuel still had a solid game. Him and Ayuk had 2 big plays in the fourth quarter. The 49ers had the ball at the 5-yard line. I think they go 95 yards to get a touchdown. It's a tie game. But then it all comes down to the 49ers defense where Tannehill runs it for like 15 yards, gets a first down. I didn't see that coming. And
23 yards.
Is it 23 yards? Oh, okay. Yeah, 23 yards. Right down the middle.
Yep.
And I didn't see it coming. I'm sure the 49ers didn't see it coming. No. Sets up a field goal, and then they win. They go on to win the game.
It's a perfect design. It's just a perfect diagnosis there of a guy who can do that, but doesn't do it often enough. And in a situation where he hasn't done it often, he pulls the trick out of the bag. And having that added, weapon to your arsenal it became the difference maker. I mean, I would still say the 49ers play relatively decent even on the defensive side of the ball, right? 17 points till the final field goal. I think you'll take that every game. But Jimmy G's 2 interceptions proved costly down the stretch. And the thing the Titans did was they protected the football. They didn't run the ball necessarily well, but with how many times they targeted A.J. Brown, they still did not turn the ball over. So credit to the Titans. They needed a victory. Now they're sitting second atop the AFC. They don't necessarily, in my opinion, have a chance to... I mean, they do. They're only 1 game out from the top seed, but the Chiefs are riding so high that I think the Tennessee Titans are going to have to win out and then hope the Chiefs lose.
Which is probably not going to happen.
Yeah. So it's going to be tough for them. But second seed, despite, having that early run and then fumbling the bag a little bit there the last couple of weeks, you still got to be happy. And then the optimism that if they get into the playoffs and Derrick Henry is back, I mean, watch out. I mean, all of a sudden the Titans are back to being a force. So they play the Dolphins next week. Dolphins have a big game tonight where they can make it 7 in a row. I hope they make it 7 in a row because then that just makes that matchup next week that much more imminent in Tennessee with the Dolphins coming into town. The 49ers get an easy bounce-back game next week. They take on the Texans. Anything else you saw from this game?
And it might not be as easy because they may not have Jimmy Garoppolo at that time. And, that's another thing about these, when I think of like a really good team, I think of a team that has established their run game really well and they can complement pass game and has a good defense, right? That's basically the 49ers. Like 49ers, Colts, I feel like those are like the most complete teams. But the problem with these complete teams is that if, the quarterback, what's the quarterback's role in a team like that, right? Play safe.
Complimentary.
Play very safe. And once these quarterbacks start throwing picks, you're not going to win the game. It's almost impossible to win the game with that type of strategy. That's the problem with this like conservative run first approach is like the quarterback has to play perfect.
Yep. You're spot on. The way these offenses work is because the quarterback plays play action, right? They come off of the run like 25 to 30 times a game, and the minute a Garoppolo or even a Tannehill or anybody like that is forced to be like, you're down, let's start throwing the ball, that's when you see these interceptions, and that's when you see these teams that are not built to come from behind. So it's important for these guys to get out early, get the lead, and start running the ball. But that was a good game on Thursday night. We had a couple of games on Christmas on Saturday. First game in Lambeau, the Cleveland Browns came into town. Packers came into this game 7.5-point favorites at home, over-under sitting at 45.5. They win a closer game than I think they would have liked, 24-22 final. They are now 12-3. They're 1 win away from pretty much locking up the first round bye in the NFC, so they are sitting pretty. Browns now dropped to 7-8. They're last place in their division. They're still not technically out of playoff contention, but it is looking bad. Cleveland does cover the 7.5-point spread over comes in by half a point at 46 with 45.5. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers came out early and often and just absolutely annihilating things. And I think the story was just, again, every week it's the same thing. Baker Mayfield, like, he just can't get the job done. Mm-hmm. He had opportunities. They were able to come back in the fourth quarter. But there's just time and time again where it's like, here's a play where we need to rely on Baker Mayfield to come through in the clutch for us, and he doesn't. Sacked 5 times, 4 interceptions. I mean, there's no way you're going to beat Aaron Rodgers and the Packers with 4 interceptions, and the fact that it was still a 2-point game. I mean, that's to me, that's a win in itself, although we don't hand out moral victories here.
Yeah, I think that it was so close, and it's unfortunate that the Browns lost this game, to be honest with you, because that last play I feel like could have been pass interference.
Yep. He
kind of got pulled, and that slant, I think Landry got pulled, and the defender gets a pick. So it's unfortunate that it happens. But those first 3 interceptions though, those were like terrible throws and overthrown to the receiver. And just easy pickings for the defense. So you can't win games. Your whole team, the defense plays well. Obviously they scored 3 touchdowns. The Packers scored 3 touchdowns, but
3 points in the second half.
Yes. That's credit to your defense. You set yourself up for the offense to go out and win the ball game, and they just don't get it done because of the turnovers.
Right. And, poor Nick Chubb, he was playing his heart out.
Ass off.
They were setting them. He was single-handedly setting them up for a win, because that second half was just all Browns. They just held on to that clock, milked that clock down, and kept churning these yards out. There was a time where they went to Nick Chubb 5 straight plays. They're like, at that point, like after that 4th play, aren't you tired?
Yeah.
Because he's like bruising through people, running fast. But that he did what they had to do. He literally had the team on his back. And what's funny is we know that last interception and could have been pass interference. However, there was 2 other times in that same drive that he could have thrown a pick.
This is true.
Yep.
So it's like he's literally trying to lose the game. Like this, like
he's just not the quarterback that needs to be there. They need to go away from Baker Mayfield. You're not gonna be able to have a solid football team with Baker Mayfield.
Right.
Baker Mayfield just needs to basically at this point reevaluate himself. Here's the thing: he's playing in a contract year, and he's almost playing himself out of a contract. Right. He's the fact that he was hurt, right, and he wanted to continue to play. He was out like a week or 2, but he wanted to continue to play. I still believe that left shoulder is still fucking with him, right? Like I feel like he's wincing at times. I just think the inaccuracy is so much more inaccurate than even what we were accustomed to seeing from Baker. Yeah. That I'm like, dude, he's not right. Either he's not right, or somebody just lost his talent like 7 weeks ago when he was playing a lot better. So to me, it's 2 things. He's playing himself out of a contract, and at the same time, he's hurting the Browns. The Browns had put themselves in a situation to make the playoffs, and because of Baker Mayfield now, they're pretty much out of it. Like they're 7-8. I don't see them even winning at 9-8 and getting in. So Cleveland Browns, thinking they had their quarterback of the future, now they don't. Now they're going to be quarterback searching again, right where the Cleveland Browns are historically always been. Yeah. And Baker Mayfield, his trajectory in the NFL all of a sudden looks very, very scary.
He's going to be a really, really good backup one day. Like, he'll be the best backup. But, dude, like, you've been given which quarterback doesn't dream of having a solid run game, so they only have to throw like 15 passes a game? He's been given that opportunity, and he still can't excel.
And you bring up that note, and that was actually where I was alluding to, is like Baker Mayfield has the capability to be a solid backup for years to come, or maybe even be a guy that gets thrown into the role to start, but has to have a great defense, has to have a run game. But the only thing holding him back, because he has that right now, is his own ego.
Yeah.
He thinks he is better than he actually is. He tries to make plays that he is not capable of making, and that's a really tough self-realization to come to. But, bro, this isn't Oklahoma anymore, right? Like, the shit that you were doing in college is not going to work anymore. And 4 interceptions in a game against the Green Bay Packers on the road in Lambeau, and you're still 2 points away from winning this game. You're the reason they lost.
Yeah, he should apologize to the rest of the team.
You're the reason they lost.
They could have stole this game very easily.
It's just frustrating.
But on the other end of the spectrum, Aaron Rodgers, he's the first QB with 15 or more passing touchdowns and no interceptions, and 1,500 passing yards in a 5-game stretch since he did it last time in 2014. So, like, dude, there's only one standard for Aaron Rodgers, and it's himself.
It's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. He's a beast. He's an absolute beast. They're 12-3, like I said. They got the Vikings next week. It's a must-win game for us. But the Packers are coming into town, or they're actually hosting this game as a must-win game for themselves because a win, and they have locked up the number 1 seed. So they still have plenty to play for there. The Browns have to travel to Pittsburgh, Chauvet, to take on your Steelers. Divisional game, but both teams really needing a bunch of help at this point to make the playoffs. Last thing to note in this game, the Packers were my survivor pick. I'm now 16-0. So 2 more games left, 2 more weeks left.
Damn. Okay, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, something to think about. Next game on Christmas.
Hold on, before we get there, I got breaking news. Jimmy Garoppolo's thumb is actually broken.
Oh no!
And he has a torn ligament, but they haven't ruled him out for this game.
Okay.
But he's not playing.
Use your medical expertise there to show and tell us what's happening.
No, he's not playing. He already sucks at throwing. Like let's not. No, he's not playing. Yeah. And number 2, Brashad Breeland has signed with the Chiefs. Arizona Cardinals.
Oh, wow.
Correct color.
Wow.
So, they did need a little bit of help in secondary, and they got worse.
Pat P was like, hey, go to my old team, bro. They suck. They could use a worse cornerback. Good for him. I saw on Twitter, the Vikings beat reporter, one of their guys, Chris Tomlinson or whatever, old dude, super annoying. Everybody hates him but the reason everybody hates him is because he asks very direct questions, which I can respect in a reporter, but it rubs some people the wrong way. Yeah. Specifically Brashad Breeland. This guy's been at his throat all year, and like half of Tomlinson's tweets are like, Brashad Breeland has now dropped to 119th out of 119 cornerbacks in PF, like shit like that. So it's like, I get why Breeland's pissed, but at the same time, he's not wrong in what he tweets. But Breeland gets cut, and this week, Tomlinson tweets, despite not playing an entire week, Brashad Breeland has actually climbed the charts in PFF and cornerback grades, and Breeland just attacked him, bro. But I thought that was hilarious. Breeland is out a week, doesn't play, and he actually moves atop the charts.
Oh, man.
So that was really funny. But
that's awesome.
That's Breeland's villain arc. Yeah. That's the beginning to his villain arc.
Hey, I hope the best for Brashad Breeland, but I honestly, talent-wise, it's just quite not there.
Dude.
So I feel bad for the Cardinals there. The Cardinals, speaking of them, they just signed Breeland. They're going to need a lot of help. They took on the Colts this week. They hosted the Indianapolis Colts, who came into town. Cardinals were favored by 1 point at home here, over-under sitting at 49. And the Colts, again, the Colts that nobody wants to face, continue to rack up convincing victories. Win on the road here, 22-16 final. Cover the 1-point dog spread, under 49 hits. Colts are now 9-6. The Cardinals have dropped to 10-5. The Indianapolis Colts are a force to be reckoned with. Jonathan Taylor, with the most quiet game he's had all season, still had 107 rushing yards. This team, does anybody want to play this team in the playoffs right now?
No.
A team that is going to run the ball at your throat. They have the best running back in the league right now to this day, at least this season-wise, and they still cannot stop it. They're still successful in doing it.
The only way they can lose this is if Carson Wentz does some weird shit, right?
Yep.
But he's not doing that as of recently.
Hey, Baker Mayfield, take some notes.
Right. That's literally what Baker Mayfield needs to do. Carson Wentz has 2 or more passing touchdowns and no interceptions for the 7th time this year, which is a career high for him. And he's had 6 such games in his previous 2 seasons combined, so he's playing the best football he's ever played. And that with like the best running back in the game right now, and with the defense, which is stingy against many things. What more do you want, right? What more do you want? But I do see some concerns, because like I said, you always want to see like, how could this team lose? How do you beat this team? And they don't really score many points because they're still that conservative team. They're a very conservative team. So if a team like the Chiefs comes into the picture, it's a whole different game, right? Yeah. So they're beating down all these other teams that play similar or worse than them, but the standard is still the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I think when you have Jonathan Taylor, it's just so scary that like when you have these like play actions and then screen passes, that kind of sets you up to like get to the opposing players like yardage and field and at least score field goals or touchdowns. Yep. So you don't have to have an explosive offense. You've got a strong enough defense, and you're able to do that. But the Cardinals, man, they just kind of blew their opportunities by like missing field goals.
Yeah, and two field goals by one of the best kickers in NFL history.
Right, and they were a 50-yarder, I think, and he missed an extra point as well.
Yep.
So you lose 7 points that 7 points is like
that's the difference between the win and the loss.
22, and 16 and 22. That's the difference there. So it was missed opportunities for the Cardinals to not be able to capitalize, and they've also lost 3 straight. So I wonder if
4 straight at home.
So that's a little concerning, right?
And they've dropped. They now don't lead the division. The Rams lead that division, and the Cardinals are now 5th place in the wild card.
Yeah.
We talk about Cliff Kingsbury as like a really good coach and all that. There was only 2 plays that happened that was more than 16 yards. I wonder if that offense is
the AJ Green catch.
The AJ Green catch that was
one
like 30
catch,
yards,
33 yards.
And there was another one. I don't remember.
Might have been Kirk or Edmonds.
Yeah, and AJ Green, he was wide open at one point in the middle field, and Murray just kind of didn't see him at all. So it's plays like that you just have to capitalize on, and they just weren't able to do.
What's funny to me is like I have never just like sat down here and like praised the Cardinals all year because we've seen firsthand. Like I can name you 2 games right now that they could have lost: the Vikings game and the Packers game. Right, like the last second stuff. Like you can't keep. Like, you have to put your foot down if you want to be the best team in the league and just start racking up wins. You can't just sneak out wins like the Ravens. Look what's happening to them now. People, they're like, people, they were 8-5 or whatever, and people were like, oh my God, the Ravens. But in reality, they've been sneaking out wins, and Cardinals are sneaking out wins. Sneaking out wins isn't going to get you to the Super Bowl. Like, take a note. Like, even the Miami Dolphins are playing better football than both these teams, as well as the Rams
Chiefs
and the Chiefs.
Rams, yeah.
You know, like you gotta start doing stuff. It's week 16. You know, you can't just be like hoping for the best.
Yeah, and it's that same story we kind of talked about last week, and what we talked about in the preview episode. I need to see a game where Kyler Murray convinces me that he can lead this team in the playoffs, and it is concerning, right? You mentioned Cliff Kingsbury, like everybody views him as this offensive savant and like the future, like the McVays, right? And the only difference in what's happened between this team currently constructed and like a couple of weeks ago is DeAndre Hopkins. And doesn't it feel like they have so many weapons that I know Hopkins is like one of the best receivers in the league, so I'm not taking anything away from him, but just because they lose him, it doesn't sit right with me that this offense seems to like struggle so tremendously all of a sudden just because of that. Like, you still have Kyler Murray. Like, up until this point, you still had Edmonds, you still had Connor, you have AJ Green, you have Kirk, you have Moore, you have Ertz. Like, there's so many weapons and playmakers on this offense that all of a sudden Hopkins is gone and Kyler Murray just looks like a shell of himself and looks very, very pedestrian.
Yeah, no, I agree. You would think that there was someone that would step up when Hopkins is hurt, and there's no one. I mean, Wesley had that 1 touchdown, but he also only has like two receptions. AJ Green, only 1 reception, that long one that we were talking about. Outside of Zach Ertz and the running backs, like no receiving core is stepping up like they need to, and that's. Yeah. I mean, that could be hurting Kyler Murray as well.
And there's Christian Kirk, obviously. He's also there. Outside of this game, he's been the leading target getter while Hopkins isn't there. But Kirk, you know, he's a great third. He's like a Van Jefferson, right? You can't rely on him to get you to the promised land. Like, he drops too many passes. He's just not that guy. So he's going with security. So he's going with Edmonds, and he's going with Zach Ertz, because those guys, you know, Edmonds is a 1-yard pass, and Zach Ertz is solid with his hands. So the trust factor is just nowhere there with any of these receivers. Why did you throw to AJ Green 3 times?
It doesn't make any sense.
In a game where you're behind most of the time, like, why don't you? And Colts, they're so bad in their deep secondary, right? Like, that's what we've been saying about the Colts, is like they fixed that as of recently, but overall, season-wise, that's been their weakness. Like, the linebackers are solid, the front is solid. The back, not so solid. And, you know, just 3 attempts to AJ Green down, like, deep.
Yeah, it was just check down day, right? It was just check down fest all day. Like, he was just continuing to just try to take what the defense gave him, and it just wasn't enough. I mean, Indianapolis literally schemed to allow that, and it played right into their hands. And so, I mean, again, another impressive victory for the Colts. You can't take anything away from them. They're a team that nobody wants to play right now. But you're right, Shoshot. If they fall behind, or if they play against a team that goes up 14-0 early on, then all of a sudden that pressure falls entirely on Carson Wentz, and that's when you don't know. There's that variable factor to not know how he's going to play. They have a good matchup next week. They're at home against the Raiders, so a good spot for them to get 10 wins. And then here's a marquee matchup that I'm looking at early. The Cardinals are traveling here to Dallas to take on the Cowboys next week. That is going to be a big, especially after what we saw from the Cowboys, which we'll obviously talk about. But holy shit, that's going to be a big game. And from a playoff seeding perspective, right? They're only 1 game apart. Dallas is 11-4, and the Cardinals are 10-5. But the Cowboys are the number 2 seed, still fighting for that first round bye, and the Cardinals are probably still trying to win that division. So 2 teams with a lot to play for, and I mean, the Cardinals at 10-5, we talked about, it doesn't matter your record. You can still be fake news and be like 12-3, right?
It's not how you start, how you finish. I mean, the Steelers were 11-0, and then they went 11-5 to end the season, and they lost in the first round. So
I mean, right now the Cardinals to me are hovering fake news. Like, they're a first round exit right now with the way this team is playing currently, sure. And I mean, the Cowboys could see a big opportunistic matchup on their hands next week. So will be a good game there. Let's kick it to Sunday. The first game on Sunday was the Rams. The Rams are traveling to Minnesota to take on our Minnesota Vikings. Rams came in 3-point favorites on the road, over under 49.5. Rams win the game 30-23 final, cover the 3-point spread, over 49.5 hits. The Rams are now 11-4. We just talked about it because they won and the Cardinals lost. They are now leading that division all of a sudden after scuffling a couple of weeks, after not beating good teams. And the Vikings are now 7-8. They have dropped from 7 to 9th place in the wild card spot. The playoffs are looking really, really grim right now for them. What'd you guys see here?
I mean, for me, we played the opposite of how we normally play. So, like, it's usually, like, intense first half, rack up a lot of points, and then just not show up second half. This week, they decided to do the other way around, They decided to do nothing in the first half and then decided to make this attempt at a comeback, which was a little too late. And couldn't capitalize off of 3 Stafford, speaking of fake news, couldn't capitalize off of 3 Stafford turnovers, No team should win after turning the ball over 3 times, especially when your opponent has a, pretty good offense. Like, it doesn't make sense, but the Vikings continue to do Vikings things, whether it's in the first half, second half. It's still it ended up being a 1-score game, and it still ended up being a loss.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing here is missed opportunities. You're in the red zone 3 times, and only in the 3 out of 5 times it's either a field goal or a turnover. So very unfortunate with that KJ Osborne,
the first pick
pick of the game, where you're in the red zone and he just
curl route,
slips out of his hands, and then just a free present, for the interception for the defender. So things like that happens, and then you have the punt. That I think right before that punt, it was like a 3rd and 1, false start, 3rd and 6, and then you kind of don't have anything. Less options on the offense, so you have to punt the ball, and then they return that. So those are the deciding factors of what led the Rams to victory. But I think that all in all, Vikings were still close in this game. If you're not able to stop the run, which hurt you. Sony Michel has like over 130 yards, and they go up 2 touchdowns with that sick OBJ slant to the right at the end zone.
Destroyed Cam Dantzler.
That was amazing to see.
One of the better routes we've seen run. Yeah. You're not wrong. And this is a theme. This is the theme of the Minnesota Vikings, right? The Vikings were in the thick of this. They were right in this game. And why do the Vikings continue to lose close games? It all comes down to execution in crunch time. It's coaching. It all comes down to intangibles in crunch time where, we can't get the one stop we need, or we can't call an opportunistic timeout, or, things like that. Matthew Stafford literally gave us this game. He threw the ball directly to Anthony Barr twice in this game, right? Like, just directly to him. So, and those were both inside the 10 fucking yard line. Right. Inside the 10 yard line.
Yeah.
And those 2 interceptions came away with 3 total points. 3 total points inside the 10 yard line. So, I mean, that's the kind of shit that we can't have happen. And it's, again, if you've listened to this, if you know anything about Vikings football, we've talked about it all year. We can never put together the entire thing for one game. This game, first half, nothing. Second half, everything. Every other game, first half, everything. Second half, nothing. It's like, dude, when are you going to put 60 minutes of football on the field?
Not this year.
And it's, dude, honestly, like, that in itself tells you that the mindset from the leadership, the coaching, whatever, the ownership, all that, like, it's just not there.
Yeah. Also, that Kirk Cousins throw to Madison it was like 3rd and 4, and he checks down instead of
the out route.
Out route instead of trying to get it to the end zone. I'm not sure what was going on in his head. I don't know why he did that instead of trying to get a touchdown. Take the sack or go for the first down or touchdown.
And like, another hidden thing is Justin Jefferson had 12 targets this game, right? 8 for 116, probably a very, very quiet 8 for 116 because it didn't feel that way. He had 1 target in the red zone. Inside the end zone, he had 1 target. And we got into the red zone 5 times. Mm-hmm. So somebody explain to me why the best player on our football team is not getting targeted in the red zone, in the end zone.
Yeah. And then, Thielen was hurt, right? Thielen had the ankle injury, and I think that kind of affected him because I don't know if he got out.
Credit to him. I mean, he was trying to push his hardest to play through that. I mean, he was fucking wincing in pain, like at one point borderline crying because he was so upset. Wow. Tried to come back on it. But yeah, not having Thielen in the red zone is huge because Thielen's been the guy that catches touchdowns in the red zone, but that still doesn't answer. Like, is Jefferson just suck in the red zone? Is he not capable of getting open? Are they just doing so much to cover him that, like, he's not a factor? I just don't understand how Adam Thielen can get open in the red zone and have touchdown after touchdown every week, and Justin Jefferson only gets 1 target in the entire red zone. So, I don't know. Little things like that. But again, it's a culmination. Every week it's a different excuse with this team, and I'm sick and tired of it. They're 7-8 now. At this point, even if they made the playoffs, they had to win 2 games, and they need help. when they could have controlled their own destiny, and now they have to take on the Packers in Lambeau, who are trying to win to secure the number 1 seed. So
it's going to be the most useless win of all time.
Yeah.
They're going to win this and just get back down to 16th overall in draft pick, and here we go again.
Is there no chance of the Vikings making the playoffs?
There is
mathematically a chance.
There's a chance.
They have to win out, and then they have to hope for help.
But, like, dude, let's get real here. Why not just give the Eagles a chance at that spot? Because, like, they are actually a good team.
Yeah.
You know, like, they can actually make things happen for 60 minutes.
Yep.
They can beat teams 34-3.
Yep.
Like,
I think at this point, everyone's kind of battling for their jobs. I think Mike Zimmer, there's a lot of questions on as a head coach next year. Will he be there? And I'm sure he's going to go out.
He should not be. He should not be there.
It's time for a divorce.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, I don't even fault them, right? I just think this team is constructed so improperly. Like, Mike Zimmer, he was great. Like, there was a time where defense was the fucking lay of the land, right? Like, you know, like maybe if this was 1990, you know, you could have this old school thought and, like, we could be successful. Even in 2017, we had a great run. But I think the reality is it's run its course because he's shown the inability to adapt. The NFL changes every fucking year. Mm-hmm. Some year it's run first, some year it's pass first, some year it's defense first, right? But we have a head coach who refuses to adapt. And then the problem is he basically just hates our quarterback, right? I mean, whenever we signed Kirk Cousins, he was not happy about it. Like, the press conference, I don't know if you guys remember, we literally had Kirk Cousins, a multi-million-dollar quarterback, signed, and this guy was more excited because Sheldon Richardson was getting ready for his next presser, and who's a defensive tackle, naturally. But and I already told you guys about the fact that they just started sitting down this year for 45-minute meetings. So, like, you just know that this is just not gelling. Like, it's run its course. Yeah. We've had some highs, we've had some lows, but let's just be done with it. Let's start fresh. Let's get a new regime, and let's fucking, like, try to actually build something and not build another stopgap where we just sign a quarterback like a Donovan McNabb or something, like the shit that the Vikings are notorious for doing.
Last thing I saw on Twitter, either Mike Zimmer's got to go or either Kirk Cousins got to go, but not both. What do you guys think about that?
See, I think our offensive coordinator needs to go first, because even if Mike Zimmer's gone or not gone, excuse me, we're still running we're running the same offense we're running, then what the fuck changed? Nothing changed. Like, I'd rather... Like, I'm not a fan of that conversation, right?
Yeah.
You can lose either one, but if the offense is still the same scheme, you just fucked up. You fucked up because you lost something that was not as important in losing than what the bigger problem is, which is the offensive scheme. We need to start fresh on offense.
So I agree with that. I don't think so. I think the problem is still Zimmer, because our offensive coordinator is literally the son of a former offensive coordinator, right? So this dude's like in his 30s. Clint Kubiak's like in his 30s, right? Mike Zimmer didn't even let fucking Gary Kubiak run his offense. Mike Zimmer would be like, all right, let's be a little bit conservative here. So I have no doubt in my mind that Clint Kubiak does not get to unleash his offensive firepower, because at the end of the day, it runs through Mike Zimmer, who's this fucking old school mindset idiot, right? So I think before we let go of Clint Kubiak, let's keep him. We can even keep Cousins. I just hope he restructures, because we can't afford his contract at $45 million next year. And then let's get rid of Mike Zimmer. So we have a young guy who's an offensive-minded guy first, but we just don't know what he can do because he's underneath a guy who fucking lives in 1960.
I mean, he's running the exact same offense his dad has been running. So I'm not even sure if it's Mike Zimmer telling him what to do. It's like still West Coast offense. It's still the same. He's running his dad's offense, just worse. Because he's trying to add more motions to try to, like, adapt to the newer age of, like, players moving around. Mm-hmm. But on paper, it's like, I doubt Gary Kubiak was this bad as far as, like, a record, like 7-8. You know, Gary Kubiak's known to make. Well, he was also like a visionary at his time because nobody ran their offense like this. So his son is trying the same thing, but don't try to be like your dad. You need to be unleashed. So I don't know if it's Mike Zimmer holding him back, or I don't know if his dad's like on the phone telling him to run his same offense, but. Like, I've seen enough, dude. I've seen enough checkdowns on third down. I've seen enough draws on third down. I need to change. I don't know who it is, but we're not going to fix the problem if it's still checking down on third downs and if it's still handoffs on third downs.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Vikings, we talked about it. They're at the Packers next week. The Rams travel to take on the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore next week, so it should be a good matchup there. Next game on the board was a toilet bowl for us this week. The Falcons were hosting the Lions. Falcons came in here 6-8. Lions were 2-11-1. Falcons came in here at 5.5-point favorites. They do win the game 20-16. Detroit covers the dog spread under 42.5 hits. A little bit more exciting game than I anticipated. You know, at least it was close. And the Falcons at least, you know, do what they've done all year, and that's beat up on bad teams.
Yeah, it was a lot closer than I thought it'd be. And the Falcons almost let this one get away from them with that fumble late in the fourth quarter.
They were losing for most
Russell
of this
Gage,
game.
right?
Yeah. So Boyle, I think, had a pretty good game. Outside, you know, Jared Goff wasn't playing, but he comes in and gives the ball to Amon-Ra St. Brown often. And how often? I mean, 11 targets, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 9 receptions. I mean, the guy, he looks good. He looks good as a number 1 receiver. And they've got this complement of Josh Reynolds, who only got 2 receptions of 7 targets, but there's still that 1 and 2 option there. So I think that the Lions did everything they could. They went for it on 4th downs. They were hitting them, getting third down conversions, doing all that they could. But in the end of the game, when you're supposed to get a touchdown, you throw a pick. That's what loses the game for you. And Falcons come out on top.
Yeah, I think in games like these, like, motivation matters, right? Like, I'm not saying everybody comes into every week trying to win, right? Obviously, that's the goal of the NFL. But the Lions playing a team where they know they can be a party pooper, or they can play spoiler against a playoff team, like the Cardinals, like the Vikings, etc. Winning those games probably, to me, I would assume, meant a lot more than coming into a Falcons game. And whether you win this game or you lose this game, it has no implications in any sense whatsoever, right? And, like you said, Tim Boyle did as much as he could, right? They ran the ball as well as they could. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a pretty really good game for a receiver, but at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough. And when you say it wasn't enough, and it wasn't enough against a Falcons team that also didn't do anything earth-shattering, like they only had 47 yards rushing, right? Matt Ryan only threw it 24 times for 215 yards, so nothing jumps out from an offensive standpoint. Right. It was just a matter of two, not like offensively deficient teams. One just did slightly better than the other.
Yeah, it's definitely offensively deficient as far as Falcons are considered. That was Matt Ryan's score in the 4th quarter. That was his 4th passing touchdown in his last 7 games.
better than Trevor Lawrence.
That's still better than Trevor Lawrence. But yeah, I mean, nothing's working here as far as Falcons are considered, but they got to beat down on the Lions team, but that wasn't motivated enough like the other games. Yeah. So yeah, and then they snuck out a touchdown late in the game, even though Russell Gage fumbled. So they just kind of got lucky with it. And this is, like you said, garbage game of the week.
Exactly. It's tough to get excited about anything here. Congrats, D-Rudge. I'm sure at this point you're probably hoping the Falcons lost, to be honest, get a better playoffs or get a better draft pick. But they're at Buffalo next week, so it's not going to be easy for Atlanta there. And then the Lions are at the Seattle Seahawks. So who knows? 2 unmotivated teams there as well. Next game on the board, the Ravens travel to Cincinnati, and holy shit, the Bengals should just get to play the Baltimore Ravens every week, because they would never lose and they would put up a shit ton of points. 41-21 final here. The Bengals win this game and are now number 1 in the division at 9-6. The Ravens lose this game, and ironically enough, we talked about it before this game. The Ravens weren't even in the playoffs. They lost this game, but they're 7th in the wild card.
Damn.
That's pretty impressive.
The way the NFL works, right? So the Ravens lose this one. They have to start Josh Johnson because Tyler Huntley's out. Lamar Jackson's out. Cincinnati was only favored by 3 points. They covered that easily. The over 45 just gets smashed. Joe motherfucking Burrow. Dude, if there is one quarterback who I wish I could have Kirk Cousins steal his moxie and his fucking just whatever the personality of Joe Burrow is, I wish we could take that and put it into Kirk Cousins, because dude, that guy just epitomizes somebody who you can get behind. I don't care about any of his football talent right now, right? Because we know he's good at that, but even if he never gets as accurate or whatever, puts up the numbers that Kirk puts up, if I could steal Joe Burrow's fucking just intensity and put it into Kirk Cousins, that would be amazing.
He was the number 1 draft pick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's reasons for that, right? Like, it's not, and it goes so much bigger than football, and that's not something our daddy Cousins has. He's at the tail end of his career.
Yeah.
You got to put him in a team that has a perfect offensive line, and you might go to Super Bowl. But this is. Of course, I would want Joe Burrow over any of this stuff. I've been saying if I could, my favorite player outside of the Minnesota Vikings is Joe Burrow. And I've been raving about him for the last 3 weeks about how good their offense is and how they could just beat up on anybody. And here we are, beating up on the Ravens like they typically do as of recently. And I mentioned a stat 3 weeks ago that they were when scoring over 25 points since 2011, the Bengals are 57-6. Or they were 56-6, and now they're 57-6. So, yeah, looking at that record, looking at how this offense is playing right now, their defense doesn't need to play that well. They're freaking on fire.
They can't be stopped.
Yeah. No, and the Ravens defense just looked terrible.
They're bad.
Yeah,
they're really bad.
Their pass defense, we know that they're bad, and Chase hadn't had a big game until that Ravens game, and then now
here we go
against the Ravens again.
There he is again. But Chase, Higgins, Boyd, Mixon.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
you get a touchdown.
Dude, Higgins is unfucking real.
Yeah.
That dude.
over two people. Did you see that catch?
He high points the ball as well as anybody in the NFL right now. I mean, that I don't know, man.
He reminds me of prime AJ Green.
Yeah, like that's a very fair comparison. I actually like that a lot. I mean, 12 catches on 13 targets, 194 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like we talked about early in the show, he led all of fantasy football in points. Joe Burrow, man, 525 yards passing and 4 touchdowns.
That's amazing.
Let me say one thing about 525. You just never, you look at the score here, 21-41. You just never see a quarterback of the winning team have 525 yards in the NFL because at some point you let up, right? And I think exactly, and it's literally because last year the Ravens did the exact same thing to the Bengals. So what did Joe Burrow do? He didn't fucking forget. Joe Burrow was like, you know what, Ravens, fuck you.
Yeah.
Last game he put up a shit ton of points. In this game he did even more. I mean, they were literally throwing like 30-yard bombs with like 40 seconds left in the game.
Yeah.
They were, and I think there was one play that was supposed to be a touchdown but called back because of holding.
Tyler Boyd.
Yeah,
that's what it was. And then they go back again, and Burrow's like shifting to the pocket and throws it deep. It doesn't get to be a catch, but yeah, they were not letting off the gas pedal. They were
must be
on.
Nice.
Yeah. What's that like?
What's that like?
Yeah. I mean, dude, this is exactly how the NFL should be played. You never let your foot off the gas. There's no such thing as like etiquette. I don't give a fuck if you're up 7 points and you there's no like the unsung rules of sports are some of the dumbest things.
They're dying off in other sports.
Yeah.
Like in
baseball, yes.
Baseball getting rid of all those rules.
Which I fucking love.
If they're like, if I can find an advantage in doing something legally, I will do it.
Yes.
Right? That's how it should be.
Yep. Like the whole Fernando Tatis his coach got mad at him because he hit a grand slam when his team was up by like 5 runs. I'm like, dude, are you fuck? Yeah. He's playing for his career, his livelihood, his money. Like, I don't give a fuck if you're padding your stats in any professional sport.
That's
it's
stupid.
just absolutely ridiculous. So mad respect to the Bengals, mad respect to Joe Burrow. They fucking just destroy the Ravens. One bright spot on the Ravens, obviously Josh Johnson. I mean, he played a decent game, but one bright spot is the guy that doesn't matter who's quarterbacking at the helm there. Mark fucking Andrews, 8 catches, 125 yards and a touchdown. Dude's a fucking beast.
He's single-handedly dragging me to the NFC or the my fantasy football championship in my other league. Single-handedly just dragged me there.
Yeah, ever since like week 3. Yeah, I mean the guy's been lights off.
Yeah, who's the number 1 tight end in fantasy football?
Is that Mark Andrews?
Who's going to be next year? Who's going to be ranked number 1?
Yeah.
I'm ranking Mark Andrews because he's the most reliable one out of all these guys.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And their offense, they don't have
quarterbacks.
They don't have a Tyreek Hill, right? So it's like you have Kelsey, but Kelsey's got a Tyreek Hill. Right. They don't have a Tyreek Hill.
They don't have a Mahomes.
Yeah, they don't have a Mahomes. They have a guy that needs his tight end in safety nets in every situation. Mm-hmm. Dude, like just seeing Josh Johnson come in there and do the exact same thing both quarterbacks are doing, which is just feeding Mark Andrews. The dude is unbelievable.
This is my new favorite system quarterback style.
Yeah, I love it.
System tight end?
Feed the ball to Andrews.
System quarterback. Like the Ravens, it doesn't matter who's the quarterback there. Yeah, like they're like, get the ball to Andrews, sometimes get the ball to your running back, and then just run. That is the play call.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not enough to beat the Bengals. No. Put up 41 points.
Yeah. But fantasy purposes, keep doing that, Ravens. Doing a great job. One more week of that, please, God.
Yeah. It doesn't get easy for the Ravens next week. They got to take on the Rams. And now, again, they are still in the wild card because of the way everything shook out. And the Bengals are now atop their division at 9-6. But it doesn't get easy for the Bengals. They have to play the Chiefs next week. So I don't think that division is done reshuffling. We still got a couple weeks left. Big matchups on the board. Let's take it to the next game, a big divisional game here for fighting for first place in that division. The Bills were traveling to New England to take on the Patriots this week. Buffalo came in at 2.5-point dogs on the road, over under 43.5, and Buffalo puts in a statement performance, 33-21 final. They win, cover the 2.5-point spread, and win outright. Over 43.5 hits. Buffalo is now 9-6, tied with the Patriots at 9-6, but now they hold the tiebreaker, and now they are number 1 in that division. Statement game from the Bills.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, big statement game. I think what was lacking was the wind and Patriots defense. They didn't really do anything to kind of stop Josh Allen. Guys like McKenzie, who just comes out of nowhere, and didn't stop Diggs either. Yep. And Singletary got a touchdown as well. So it was just one of those things where Patriots did not do what we know them to do, which is play good defense. They did run the ball well. Damian Harris, I think, had 3 touchdowns in the game. Wow. But at the end of the day, Josh Allen to Knox seals the game, ends the game, and no answer from the Patriots at that point.
Yeah, that's funny. Bill Belichick got out Bill Belichicked. So this is the first time in Bill Belichick's career that he didn't force the other team to punt. There was no punts. The Bills did not punt the ball. Wow. They just manhandled them.
Yeah.
So it was the wind, and it was the that was a classic Bill Belichick moment, right? He finds ways that other people don't find to win the game. He's like, we got crazy win situation. Let's defer the ball in the first so we get the, you know what I mean? Like, it's those things. He set it up so perfectly that other coaches didn't even think of, right? And then we all talk about how Bill Belichick loves shutting down one player. Congratulations, you shut down Stephon Diggs for a little bit of the game. Isaiah McKenzie was their focal point, right? So Bill Belichick just got single-handedly out Bill Belichick. They did everything that Bill Belichick would have done, and they were like, let's just let him do it. We're going to do other things. And then, like, that's exactly how everything worked out. And then, you know, they put their foot on their gas pedal too. Speaking of a team that was putting their foot on the gas pedal, they forced Mac Jones to try to keep up to 33 points. And what we've been saying about the Patriots, they can be perfect on defense. They can be perfect running the ball. But the biggest weakness of these run-first teams is a lot of points, right? You got to score 33 points to beat Josh Allen, especially this new Josh Allen that we saw overcoming really good defense. You know, he played pretty well today or yesterday. And if he continues to play like this, yeah, that division, now it's tied, right? They're tied at top.
Yep. Buffalo leads now they lead because of the tiebreaker. So now they're fourth place. New England is now sixth in the wild card spot. So they're slightly behind Indianapolis, who holds the tiebreaker based on a head-to-head win percentage.
And what, the Bengals and the Ravens are like a game behind?
Yeah, the Bengals and Ravens are one game apart. The Ravens are 7th seed and the Bengals are the 3rd seed.
So we're saying the Patriots could miss the playoffs if they lose.
There is an absolute chance after the run that they were on. They could still miss the playoffs. Wow. I mean, they take on the Jags next week, so.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, there you go.
I don't see them losing that one.
Rest in peace to that conversation.
Yeah, but the Bills take on the Falcons, so the Patriots aren't going to be able to catch them. There should be 2 wins on the board for those 2 divisional.
So I got more breaking news. Sean McVay says Cam Akers may play this week.
Oh, Sony Michel owners, what are you going to do?
Oh, God.
Am I playing? No, I'm not playing him in any leagues. Therefore, you can still play Sony Michel. Cam Akers not going to do shit.
Yeah.
I think they're just getting his feet wet to get him ready for the playoffs. Yeah. Because you can't just throw somebody in the playoffs that hasn't played in years or months. So I think the next 2 games are going to be like 5 touches, 7 touches, and then maybe like 15 touches in the playoffs.
Yeah. It's definitely going to hinder Michel because you still have a healthy Henderson and you still have Cam Akers.
Henderson's not healthy anymore.
Oh, he's not?
He's got a knee sprain. He sprained his knee.
Oh, shit.
So
that's right.
That's why. Yeah, that's probably why Cam Akers.
That makes sense. Okay. So yeah, you're still probably confidently starting Michel.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, again, Bills take care of business. Very impressive game for them. Josh Allen, we've been hard on him all year, but he puts up a really good performance. 30 completions, 314 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, no sacks. Ran the ball 12 times for 64 yards. And it seems like in crucial running situations, they literally just prefer Josh Allen running versus the running backs.
They do. And you get at least 1 hurdle per game from Josh Allen.
Yeah.
And then just another stat to back up what we've been saying about how the Patriots can't keep up with people. Mac Jones is now 0-4 when Patriots allow 25 points in a game. So he hasn't been able to win in shootouts.
Yeah. Patriots are going to need to beat the Jaguars next week, get some help, and stay in contention there. But yeah, anytime the Patriots have been forced to have Mac Jones beat them, it has not happened. And again, give him a little bit of grace and leeway because he is a rookie, but this is the toughest part of the situation or of the season, and you have to step up. So 145 yards on less than 50% completion and 2 interceptions is just not going to cut it.
Yeah.
Next game on the board was Toilet Bowl Part 2 this week. The Jags were at the Jets here. It was a pick'em game because even Vegas didn't know who the hell was worse. Over-under was 41.5. And I think we knew. The Jags are the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah, for sure. The better team definitely won this game.
Jets 26-21. They were a pick'em. Over 41.5 comes in. Jets are now 4-11. Jags are 2-13. Yeah, I mean, again, battle of shitty teams, and the Jags prove once again they are the shittiest.
Yeah, battle of QB1 versus QB2, and I think Wilson takes this one home with the W, and he doesn't get more passing yards than Lawrence, but he didn't throw a pick. Lawrence just couldn't find the end zone.
Again, that's a theme.
Yeah.
7 games in a row now, no touchdown passes?
I think it's 8.
Jesus, bro.
Yeah, so number 1
I think it's 8 of the last 7. Or sorry, 7 of the last 8. Yeah,
okay.
Right.
Yeah, how are you going to win games without throwing a touchdown pass?
Dude, I don't
You're
know.
a quarterback.
And now you don't even have your running back.
Yeah, James Robinson got hurt.
It's time for Ogunnubalewale season.
Yeah, I think the Jets just kind of they got a kickoff return. They score a touchdown throwing the ball, and they run the ball as well.
Yeah.
They found ways to score a touchdown, and whoever scores most wins the game.
Yeah,
and they did.
Dude, all they did was just hand it off to the running back and run up the middle.
Yep.
So they had 2 running backs that had over 14 carries and 2 other players that had almost 100 yards. So Michael Carter had 100 yards or more, and then Zach Wilson had 91 yards rushing.
Yeah, he had that insane 50-yard run down the sidelines.
Exactly. So yeah, why have you not been doing that, Zach Wilson? Maybe run a little bit more. The Jets just pounded it up. The Jaguars, knowing the Jaguars couldn't throw, and beat them. So congratulations.
Yeah, and not a ton of action. Again, Michael Carter would have been a decent fantasy start, 118 yards on the ground, and then he did have 2 catches for 6 yards. Marvin Jones, 8 for 74 on the other end. Tavon Austin, sighting 6 for 68. Treadwell, 4 for 54 on 5 targets. And with no James Robinson, I mean, if you're desperate for a running back, you could be looking at possibly next week starting Ogunbowale.
Yep. Who do they play next week?
They play. We just talked about
the Patriots?
Yeah,
I just forget that.
Yeah,
scratch everything.
Ogunbowale. The Patriots defense might be the start of the week next week.
Yeah, for sure.
That takes us to the next divisional game here. Show it. This was your survivor pick. The Eagles were at home hosting the Giants, who came into town. Eagles were 10-point favorites, over under 40.5. What looked like a close game early was definitely not at the end. 34-10 final. Eagles win this easily, cover the spread, over hits. Eagles are now 8-7. Giants are now 4-11. Show it. You picked the Eagles this week as your survivor pick. They took care of business.
Yeah, I was a little nervous up until the third quarter because the score was 3-3.
Yeah.
Both teams weren't doing anything. They were, it just looked like a terrible game.
Yeah.
But they turned it on. The Eagles turned it on in the third quarter. I think there was a pick by McLeod. McLovin. Is that what you said?
Rodney McLeod, you mean?
No,
who picked it off?
No, it was McLeod or something like that.
Oh, you're talking about a defensive player. I thought you were trying to say Mike Glennon, but
no.
Rodney McLeod.
Okay. Yeah, McLeod. Yeah. He caught a interception, and then that just kind of ignited the Philadelphia Eagles. Devontae Smith went off, sick touchdown grab, toe tapper at the end of the game, and the Giants had really no answer for them in the third quarter.
The Giants literally started Jake Fromm. I mean, what were they expecting? 6 for 7, 25 yards in interception, got sacked twice, got benched.
No. Jake Fromm
got hurt.
State Farm.
Oh, no, he got benched.
Yeah, he got benched because he's so fucking bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't. You don't need much of a sample size from him. He just doesn't have the arm strength. Like, he's bad. He's not an NFL quarterback, unfortunately. Mike Glennon had to come back in the game and just looked still really bad. They couldn't run the ball. There was no offense. And they couldn't stop him in the second half.
Yeah, dude, this team just needs to reset. Yeah. Maybe trade Saquon. I don't know. Like, Saquon's not going to be doing much next year either, I would assume, unless something seriously changes on this team. Yeah. And I don't think firing the last guy was a great idea.
Yeah. Their offensive coordinator,
Jason Garrett.
Yeah, because it's literally made them worse since that moment.
I think at this point you kind of have to see what you can get from Saquon. His value is pretty much probably at an all-time low, but hopefully the name and what he's done in the past still holds weight. Because at this point, like. Again, it's so hard to be like a running back is your best player kind of team unless everything else is built well, right? Offensive line, defense, quarterback limits mistakes, and et cetera. And right now, their offensive line's horrible. Their quarterback situation's horrible. Their defense is horrible. So at this point, you need to trade Saquon and see if you can acquire some assets, some draft picks, and start building.
Yeah, I mean, if you have Daniel Jones, some of these guys that you're looking at, like Tony Galladay, who got paid this year, and Slayton, they're pretty good receivers.
He has no touchdowns, I think, all season.
Oh, is that right? I mean, on paper, those are good players.
Yeah.
But they're just not performing well, and I don't know what it boils down to.
I think I know what's wrong. It's that they haven't been able to all play at the same time.
This is true,
right?
Too.
Like, it's just one's gone while the other one's gone. The receivers are always gone. And it's just like, this was just a season that they just knew was never going to go anywhere, and now it's just time to just hit reset and just start tomorrow. But because, another thing is, why I say just kind of start fresh is Daniel Jones is just not that guy, man. He's not that guy. Like, he also had his own faults even when everybody was healthy. They still weren't. They're doing well. Yeah. They were still a bad team even when everybody was healthy. Yeah. And that's also because he lead the league in the most turnovers.
And he's only played
he fumbles 1 per game.
He's turnover prone, and he just can't find ways to get healthy either.
Yeah.
He likes to run the ball.
True.
And then he gets tackled.
Yeah.
And then he gets hurt.
And now he has a serious neck injury. It's significant. They had to shut him down for whatever reason. So these are not good signs for even in the future, even if he comes back. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think they're unloading. I think they need to unload their biggest assets and try to build for the future. Eagles, again, they are now 8-7, so they are right in the thick of things. They are currently, as we stand, 7th. They have overtaken the Vikings in the playoff spot there. They're in the wild card. So they have a very kind of opportunistic schedule. They take on the football team next week, so they have a really good chance to make the playoffs here. Giants take on the Bears next week, a game of two teams that really doesn't really mean anything at this point. Let's kick it to the next game. The Buccaneers were at Carolina this week. Buccaneers came in 10-point favorites. Carolina looks like shit. The Buccaneers won 32-6 final, under 44 covers. This was a game where Tom Brady literally didn't need his weapons. He didn't need half of his team team because they were all hurt. You had a backup running back. You had Antonio Brown back, but no Godwin, no Evans. Gronk pretty much was non-existent, and yet they still won 32-6.
Go ahead.
I mean, I just want to focus on Antonio Brown for a second. You know, like losing those other receivers, but gaining Antonio Brown, it kind of makes them better. Like, you know, like I love those guys. Those guys are great at what they do, but Antonio Brown is one of the greatest receivers of all time, right?
I'm going to let you finish, but
15 targets, 10 receptions, and they ran the ball so well that all Antonio Brown had to do was complete third downs. And out of those 15 targets, 10 of them, you know, were caught, moved the ball. He didn't even have to rely on Gronk. Gronk had like one catch all game long. Ronald Jones did fuck up again different times of the game as far as catching goes. But running the ball, he knows how to do that very well, even though it wasn't like a 100-yard game. He was able to just maintain this momentum. The team as a whole was able to just move this forward-moving momentum all game long, and the Panthers couldn't muster up the points to keep up with that.
Yeah, I miss Antonio Brown as a Steelers fan. I feel like we have the poor man's Antonio Brown and Deontay Johnson, who's got some good potential and whatnot.
He also had a drop catch this game.
He also had a touchdown this game too.
Yeah,
so.
you're right.
But you know, the thing is, the Panthers just suck. Their offense was not rolling. They tried Cam Newton. Cam Newton got an interception. Sam Darnold comes in. Sam Darnold doesn't do anything either. So really nothing working for Matt Rule and this offense. And it's time to go back to the drawing boards and start over next year. And Buccaneers just do enough to win the game.
Yeah. I was talking to my buddy Jake, and like I told you guys last week, I think Matt Rule's like he's seeing his final days. They still believe that they should just use Cam as a 1-year stopgap and then draft a quarterback because Darnold's not the answer. I don't know really how far that's going to get them, to be honest. It's dysfunctional, right? Because this was a team that was predicated on running first. They were predicated all around their star running back, and their star running back hasn't been here. And now all of a sudden, when are you seeing the Carolina Panthers with CMC have 6 carries for 9 yards? Chuba Hubbard literally was not even a running back. So like they have no running game, and their quarterbacks, they can't even figure out who to start because they're all bad. They have pretty much a quarterback room of bad quarterbacks, and so it's like a carousel. Darnold's not good. Cam Newton's not cutting it. So they're just in a complete disarray. And at that point, like, it doesn't matter how decent or good or, you know, optimistic your defense can be. Like, there's just not enough offense to even make the defense liable.
I just don't know if it's fair for Matt Rule. Rule.
Yeah.
Like, it's, what is this, his second year in the Panthers? And, like, when you have your best running back, your number one running back that gets injured, then you have a quarterback who you thought Sam Darnold would perform, and he doesn't. Like, that's, I don't know if that's your fault. Like, you've got to kind of give him a chance and maybe get a better offensive coordinator, because they did let go of the offensive coordinator sometime like 3 weeks ago. So maybe just start over and give Matt Rule another year.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what internally the problem is. I personally don't think Cam's the answer either. So like if I'm looking at it from like who am I going to give a more opportunity to, it's going to be the coach. It's his second year versus a quarterback who's aging and like pretty much done.
A little bit about the coach. So Matt Rule is actually 10-21 as a Panthers head coach. That's the worst winning percentage by head coach in their first 2 seasons in their team history.
Okay.
So the fingers have to be pointed somewhere. I think that's where this is coming to. I mean, I hope he doesn't get fired, because I also believe he's not the problem here. That's just, it's been a series of unfortunate events for the Panthers. Let's just be honest.
Lemony Snicket style?
Yep. But again, like why Jason Garrett had to be fired for the Giants. Oh, the Giants, I think it's a similar situation for the Panthers. It's like the finger has to be pointed somewhere, and the people up top are never willing to point it towards themselves.
Yeah,
you know?
They're not going to fire themselves.
Right. So someone's got to go.
Yeah. It's tough. They got the Saints next week. Again, divisional game, but 2 teams. Saints are still fighting for a playoff spot. Panthers really not fighting for anything. Buccaneers get a really easy game next week at the Jets. So let's take it to the next game. The Chargers were at the Texans. Show you took the Chargers as your survivor pick. And why wouldn't you? They were taking on the Texans. Chargers were favored by 10 points coming into Houston, over under 45.5. And what happens here? The Houston Texans pull a victory out of their ass. 41-29 final. Cover the 10-point dog spread. Win outright. Over 45.5 hits. I mean, I saw a stat, I think 95% of the bets and 90% of the money was all on the LA Chargers this week.
Yeah, it's crazy. Davis Mills looks kind of good, didn't he?
Well, weird.
Yeah. Well, the Chargers defense is not very good either.
Yeah.
Rex Burkhead is able to over 100 yards.
Had a better game than his entire college career in Nebraska.
Yeah. So he has a solid game. Davis Mills is able to throw it to his rookie receivers and just get points on the board. And late in, when Chargers are about to come back, they get a pick six, and the Texans are able to score. So not the Texans we're used to seeing, but like you said, they perform well against the Patriots, perform well against the Rams. They put up some points, and now against the Chargers. Yeah. So
3 playoff teams.
Don't you dare put the Chargers in the same category as those other 2 teams. This team is about as fake news as it gets, man. This defense is just so bad. It's just so bad. When you let Rex Burkhead, who's been averaging like 1.3 yards per carry, look like freaking Saquon Barkley of 2 years ago out there, I mean, yeah, this team's not going to go anywhere. I hate to say it. The offense is so skilled. It sucks that Eckler wasn't there, but Jackson was able to make up for all that. And you can't throw a pick six to the Houston Texans, right? So many things are just not fitting well for this team. This team is also another one of those teams that needs to just keep the whole offense, but just redo the whole defense.
What do you do if you're the Texans, though, right? We beat
Davis Mills.
Davis Mills is the answer?
Dude, Davis Mills is actually playing good football, right? I mean, he's already doing something that the number 1 overall pick can't do, and that's score touchdowns.
Is he the best rookie quarterback of this class?
Whoa.
I mean, it was Mac Jones. Mac Jones is having a couple of rough weeks. I would say holistically as a season as a whole, probably still Mac Jones. But for the least amount of expectations and exceeding them, it's by far Davis Mills.
Yeah. Or Huntley.
Yeah, actually, let's go. Fuck yeah. Let's give credit where it's due. Tyler Huntley, but he's only played like 2 weeks, so smaller sample size, but
he's probably never going to play again.
Exactly.
At least
there is a chance. But no, I'm impressed with Davis Mills. I think there's a legitimate look at Davis Mills in the future, right? He's at least deserved to be at least speculated as a possibility, right?
Give him better running back committee. I know Rex Burkhead went off this week, but
who wouldn't against the Chargers?
Exactly.
We would go off against the Chargers.
It looks like it, man. It looks like
I mean, again, fuck. I love Rex Burkhead, Nebraska guy. 22 for 149 and 2 touchdowns, though, bro. Like, you were literally averaging less than 2 yards a carry all season. So the problem is definitely the Chargers, not you all of a sudden got really good again. So
props, but not that many props.
Exactly. So Justin Jackson, again, a huge fantasy week for anybody that picked him up. That's a big spot. But Herbert, disappointing. You don't throw 2 interceptions against the Houston Texans. I mean, that's just not going to cut it. They take on the Broncos next week. 2 teams that are 8-7 and 7-8. So still fighting. I think the Broncos are technically out of it, but the Chargers are going to have to win out and get some help. The Texans have the 49ers in San Francisco next week. So San Francisco gets a get-right game there. Next game on the board, a couple more games that,
they?
Yeah, that's true. Or do they? Next game on the board is a couple more teams that, really aren't playing for much, but it was a fucking exciting game that came down to the wire. The Bears and Matt Nagy were traveling to Seattle to take on Pete Carroll and the Seahawks. Seahawks came into this one 5-9. The Bears were 4-10. Chicago was a 6.5-point dog in Seattle, playing the 12th men, over under 42.5, and the Bears win in great fashion, going for the coveted 2-point conversion at the end. That becomes so controversial at times. 25-24 final. They cover the 6.5-point spread, over 42.5 hits. Both teams are now 5-10. I really hope Matt Nagy didn't somehow save his career by doing this and winning this game, because I truly think he deserves to get fired. But nonetheless, ballsy call, impressive performance, and come away with the W.
It's a smart move, because if you lose, then you get a better draft pick. Yep. If you win, you build some morale. Yep. So, you can't lose whichever way you go there. So that's smart on the head coach.
Way better in this situation than the Baltimore Ravens and John Harbaugh. Not even close.
Right. I mean, the Ravens are 7th pick in the wild card because of that, right? No, but I think that Nick Foles, we haven't seen him all year. This is the first game, and
dude, I'm gonna be so sad when he leaves and he doesn't play next week, because Montgomery is clearly the number 1 target when Nick Foles is playing. He had 9 targets. He gets like one when Fields is playing. So, yeah, I'm gonna be particularly upset when Nick Foles is not playing anymore.
Yeah. No, this was a snowy day. And I expected a lot of running. 21 carries of Montgomery. Rashard Penny had a solid game. I should have started him. Don't know why I didn't.
Dude, he's running all over
135 yards.
He was actually running all over the place. Montgomery wasn't really doing that great on the run, but he was getting those key third downs. Yeah. But Penny, it's solid back. He is officially the running back in Seattle.
How did it feel seeing that long touchdown?
I was just going to talk about
that. DK Metcalf.
So it hurt at first, but then what's funny is you look at the rest of the game, and he only had one other catch for no yards.
Yeah.
For no yards.
What?
Make it make sense, Seattle. Make it make sense. I don't care if Russell Wilson throws 4 interceptions. Throw 4 fucking bombs to Metcalf every game. I don't give a shit.
You know what I think happened?
What?
I think it was a little snowy, so he didn't know if it was Lockett or DK there. So like, damn, fuck it, lock it down there
Just
somewhere.
lock it. Oh shit, it's DK. He's like, my bad, Tyler. I got you next time. But dude, I just don't get it. I don't get it. They lose again. Russell Wilson is efficient, but not the Russell Wilson that we're accustomed to seeing. And yeah, DK Metcalf, a huge 41-yard touchdown. You're like, where's that been all season? And he only catches one more ball for 0 yards the rest of the game. I just don't understand. This is probably the biggest mystery in all of football. I'm trying to think of other things that don't make sense.
This year?
Yeah.
This is definitely the biggest
I'm trying
mystery.
to think of other big things that were just like make it make sense, but this one really doesn't make sense. So I'm really curious to see in the offseason if something comes out about what the fuck was going on here. But the Chicago Bears, Nick Foles targeting Montgomery, giving him the ball 21 times for 45 yards. Not efficient, but it doesn't matter. Got the job done. Big fantasy day for you and me for Montgomery, so happy about that. The Bears are 5-10. They take on the Giants next week in a game of two teams that doesn't matter. The Seattle now drops to 5-10. They're out of the playoffs, and they take on the Lions next week. So another game that doesn't matter. Yep. So a big pile up of 4 teams that are playing each other that just doesn't quite frankly matter. Yep. Anything else to add here?
No.
Gerald Everett, 4 for 68 and a touchdown.
Yeah,
seems to be the DK Metcalf of that team.
I would never tell anybody to start Gerald Everett.
But he's been consistent though. He gets some touchdowns.
Yeah,
it just sucks.
It just scares the tight end.
I just never want that problem.
Yeah. Right.
Like I ignore those problems because I'm never gonna put myself in a position where I have to start Gerald Everett.
Yeah.
Well, with the way the tight end situation is, you may have to.
Yeah, I mean, I've been hoarding 3 tight end squad this whole year because I don't like those problems.
Yeah.
It's like either Schultz, Knox, or whoever the hell I started in the beginning of the year. I don't even know. I don't even know who I drafted. But you know what I mean? Like the tight end, it's that scarce that I don't want those Gerald Everett problems. So I just hold on to like as many. Like, Logan Thomas.
Yeah. Although Schultz I like Schultz and Knox more than I like Everett.
Oh, yeah,
100%.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
my point. Like
he found both those guys. Yeah.
Right. No Everett. I'm only doing this because I played against Everett when Everett had like 40 fantasy points or 38 fantasy points. He scored 3 touchdowns on Monday Night Football.
Yeah. With the Rams?
When the Rams and the Chiefs were going off, it was just Everett.
Everett Fest. Yeah. PTSD. It'd be like that.
It do.
The Chiefs were the next game on the board. They were hosting your Steelers. Shove it. Chiefs came in 7.5-point favorites, over under 44.5. And I mean, this was a pretty easy, lopsided performance. 36-10 final. Never really a game. Chiefs are now 10-4. The Steelers dropped to 7-6-1. Defense couldn't stop the Chiefs running and throwing. The offense couldn't really muster up any points. I mean, when neither side of the ball does anything, you're probably not going to win.
So, I wasn't watching the game with you guys this week, but when Deontay Johnson scored that touchdown at the very end, I got on my knees and almost cried. Like, I was just so happy.
Is that why you didn't want to come watch football with us?
No, I wasn't feeling well.
Really? You sure about that?
Yeah, I'm positive. 100%. Okay. But I almost broke down and cried. I was like, oh my God, it actually happened. It was such a nice cut and just such a sick play. But I mean, that kind of like gives you an idea of what I expected from the game, right? Yeah. I knew that the Chiefs were going to come in. The only kind of hope I had was like Kelsey's not going to be there. So Tyreek Hill gets shut down maybe. And then,
Darrell Williams gets some catches.
Darrell Williams gets some
maybe
catches.
Deontay gets a late touchdown.
Right, right. But like guys like Pringle. Pringle's, 7 targets, 6 receptions, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. So our defense just was not able to stop the Chiefs, and our offense didn't get rolling until that one of those last drive. So it was just a really poor performance. I don't think we're completely out of the playoff race. So there's like a 13% chance. A lot of things need to go right for the Steelers to make the playoffs, but it's looking very, very grim. And
welcome to the world of the grimness.
On to next year.
It's tough. I mean, Mahomes had a great game, right? 258 through the air, 3 touchdowns, didn't throw an interception, was only sacked twice. They ran the ball decently. I mean, 35 for 127 between the 3 running backs that, basically split all the touches. I was going to ask you guys, if somebody started Pringle this week in their fantasy football playoffs, would you say, holy shit, that was the
crazy move,
ballsiest start ever?
Not
or what
really.
the fuck were you thinking? You got really lucky.
What the fuck were you thinking?
You got really lucky.
You got 100% lucky. Yeah. You got Mecole Hardman. I mean, Tyreek Hill is still there.
Mecole Hardman's definitely after Pringle. If you look at the numbers, they really like Pringle more. If it's not Tyreek Hill and not Kelsey, it's Pringle.
Sure, but there are other options in the fantasy world instead of Pringle.
Yeah. I'm imagining the only person that started Pringle is the guy that didn't check that day when it said Tyreek Hill is no longer on the COVID list.
Yeah.
If you did not see that notification and he had Pringle before that notification. That's the only reasonable explanation. I don't know why anybody would have started Pringle.
No, you got lucky.
Did somebody start Pringle?
No. I'm just curious because, we talk about it all the times how you got to be the ones. And if somebody did start him.
Yeah, that's
the only person I would say is McKenzie. If you started McKenzie looking at his last year Week 16 results against the Patriots, and you're like, because he scores 2 touchdowns last year, same time around this year as well. You're like, okay,
use the same analysis.
If you use that logic to start McKenzie, you're a fucking idiot.
It was like with no Emmanuel Sanders or no Cole Beasley.
But Sanders played.
Sanders did play, and Diggs did play too. So that's why I didn't start him.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. That was just a random question. But anyways, the Chiefs take care of business. I mean, Steelers. You mentioned it. Show up at 7-7-1 now. They take on the Browns next week. So, playoffs are getting further and further for them. They're going to need to win out and get a lot of help. The Chiefs are now 10-4. They travel to Cincinnati. Big matchup next week against the Bengals. They're 11-4 actually, the Chiefs. So now they're top in the NFC, right, or in the AFC. So they're looking to continue to lock up that bye week. So both teams still have a lot to play for.
They look unbeatable, man. Like their defense is rolling. I know you play the Steelers, and which their offense, doesn't really show up until like the third or fourth quarter. But yeah, man, I don't know who's going to beat these Chiefs. They look tough.
As long as their defense plays like this, their offense has always been their offense. Yeah, they're the most complete team in football.
Dude, them and the Packers, they're the only two teams that COVID hasn't done shit. Like it removed all the receivers, they still won. It removed Aaron Rodgers, they still are a good team still. Did they win that game?
Can't remember.
With Love? Probably not, right?
No, who cares?
No. Yeah. But anyways, and then the other team, the Chiefs, you got rid of Kelsey. Didn't
skip a beat.
Didn't even need Hill. They're like
no Kelsey. Hill had 2 catches, and you won 36-10.
Yeah,
That's
scary team.
Scary as fuck.
Yeah, Chiefs and Buccaneers again, round 2.
Yeah, Chiefs and Packers.
Yeah, that's
especially with
Tyler.
The receivers.
I can see Tyler Johnson dropping a pass that like Mike Evans wouldn't.
Sure.
But yeah, they have Brady, so you know what? I retract my statements.
Yeah, it's gonna be Buccaneers Packers in the conference championship, and then the Chiefs on the other side, probably waiting for them.
Yeah. I don't see anyone that can stop Chiefs in the NFC. Yeah,
I mean, if the Bills play to their full potential, they could put up 38 points, and then Chiefs could put up 33.
That's the thing about the NFL, right? It's not series based like the football or baseball. It's one game, winner take all. So anything can happen.
Exactly.
Oh, Kansas City versus the Bengals. What about that?
Bengals defense isn't good enough.
Their offense.
But the Chiefs defense is good.
Yeah, but you also don't want to get lost because of that crazy game the Bengals had because, you got to look at what's been happening.
Yeah.
And that one was that's going to be the outlier.
Yeah, their 2 craziest games were against the Ravens, so it's kind of a theme, Yeah. So, and we know, again.
And the Cowboys.
Yeah, Cowboys.
Oh, yeah.
Which we still have to talk about. There's a reason we haven't given them their due. Okay. But yeah, the Chiefs are going to be at the Bengals next week, and then the Steelers take on the Browns. Next game on the board, the Raiders and Broncos were playing each other. Battle of mediocrity is what we called it. Vegas was at home, 1.5-point favorites, and they win and cover 17-13.
This was the boringest game of the season.
Oh my God. There's rarely a time where I can't keep my eyes on football, and this was one of those games. It was just back and forth of just 3-and-outs. Bad throws, like shitty runs for losses, and man, that was boring. But the Raiders win. They cover. They win by 4 under hits. They're both now 7-7, I believe. So they're both 7-8. Yeah, the Raiders are now 8-7, and the Broncos are now 7-8. So the Raiders are 8-7, but still 9th place as they are losing the tiebreaker to the Chargers and the Ravens. But the Broncos are mathematically still technically in it, but very, very tough for them. But dude, a very uninspiring, unexciting game. The highlight of this game is, of course, Josh Jacobs had his best game of the motherfucking season. Funny enough, I lost in our playoffs, so I don't no longer need a Jacobs. Also, funny enough, I was playing against Josh Jacobs in the playoffs. So just funny how the world works there. Josh Jacobs, best game of the season.
Yeah, this, Broncos are weird because you have Drew Lock, who's your quarterback, so you expect them to run the ball more. They run the ball a total 17 times for 20 yards. Javonte Williams, 7 carries. Melvin Gordon, 7 carries for -4 yards. So I'm not sure what they were going for.
I mean, but this is the product of going 3 and out every single drive. They didn't even have the opportunity to run the ball.
Yeah.
Because when you run the first play for 1 yard, dude,
Drew Lock is bad.
The Broncos are just
Drew Lock is very, very bad. He's very inaccurate. Yeah. But yeah, like that's what any first down that you gave Drew Lock an incomplete pass, it just took the run out of it that entire 3 downs, right? And that was the thing. They couldn't sustain a single drive. They were 1 for 10 on third downs.
Right. And the Raiders turned the ball over 3 times. So you had the opportunities.
Yeah.
You got the ball.
That's what I was going to say. I wish Drew Lock threw some picks so we could know why they lost.
Yeah.
But like, he didn't even throw any picks. They just sucked.
Yeah. I mean, it's the stats are so weird in this game, right? Vegas wins. Vegas obviously has 22 first downs to 8. They're 6 of 12 on third down versus 1 for 10, right? So right there alone, you're like, oh, Vegas dominated this. Vegas, time of possession, 36.5 minutes to 23 minutes, right? Those 3 stats in themselves would lead you to believe that Vegas probably won this game by like 40 points. They out-yardage gained 342 to 158. I mean, like, those 4 stats right there, you're like, what's the final score of this game? Like 31-6? But no, Vegas turned the ball over 3 times. Denver did not turn the ball over. That's the reason they were in this game. But again, quarterback play just not good enough.
Yeah. I think you just have to look at this game and be like, okay, what's going to happen next year? Is Josh Jacobs going to get these kind of – because this is what we expected, right? This is why we drafted Josh Jacobs.
This is what he did last year, too.
Yeah. So you can see that he can put in
He's
the
not
numbers.
bad. Like, he's a good football player. I just think they're making him seem the team and the way they construct their run offense makes him seem like a shittier runner.
First half of the season was bad, but the last 5 games he's had over 70 scrimmage yards in all 5 of those games. So, you know, like that's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough to like do like 7 points in fantasy. That's just only from the running scrimmage yards. If you add a couple of catches here and there, and then you're at 10, you're at solid double digits, you know?
Yeah. But yeah. So again, 8-7 now for the Raiders, 7-8 for the Broncos. The Raiders have to play the Colts next week in Indianapolis, so it's not going to be easy if they want to keep their playoff hopes alive. And the Broncos are taking on fake news Chargers, so it's kind of a game of fake news is there. Next game on the board, the Cowboys. We've been waiting to talk about the Cowboys, man. I hate the Cowboys. I give them a shit ton of slack all the time. But Dallas was hosting the football team this week, and 10.5-point favorites at home. And I mean, they didn't just cover that spread; they annihilated that spread, 56-14. The score was 42-7 at halftime. Over under 47 hit at halftime, almost by one team as a whole. The Cowboys probably the best individual or I guess complete team performance of the season. A statement game. I know the football team, they're 6-8, but they're not a pushover, right? They have a decent defense and they've been gritty and they've kept themselves in games. So this was absolutely a statement game. Everything was clicking for Dallas. Offense clicking, passing clicking, running clicking, receivers clicking, tight end clicking, defense clicking.
What's funny
Special teams clicking.
What's funny is last week I was debating. I was like, do I label the Cowboys like one of the elite teams or not? And I was like, they haven't shown us a complete team performance, and boom, here we are. A complete team performance. They just annihilated. I have never seen a beatdown this bad in my life.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I mean, Washington football team, no answer.
They didn't want to be there.
42-7.
When's the last time you've seen one team put up 42 points at half? Like, that just spews the other team doesn't give a shit.
Right.
Like, there's no other way. You could put up, that's 6 possessions, 7 touchdowns, 6 possessions in the first half, every single one leading to a touchdown. But, I mean, it's unbelievable. 330 for Dak through the air, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. They didn't really even have to run the ball much. I mean, Zeke led the way with only 9 carries.
Yeah.
Pollard had 8. And then you had the receivers, right? You had Amari Cooper probably has his, best game of the season? 7 for 85 and a touchdown?
No, his best game of the season was the first game of the season.
Oh, was it? Okay.
But yeah, that's funny
Since then?
What's funny is I was begging for a touchdown from Amari Cooper and then got one. Even after the score was so...
Yeah.
I was like, he's done. He's not going to give me anything, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to make the finals. And then here comes hero Amari Cooper out of nowhere getting me into the playoffs.
Nice. Yeah, Gibson just keeps being the gift that keeps on giving. And he got a touchdown.
Yeah.
This is one of the most uninspiring. 6 carries for 29 yards.
But a touchdown.
2 catches for 29 yards. Yeah. But a touchdown.
But a touchdown. And the reason I think they stopped using him.
He didn't play in the second half.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, they got shit on.
They're down, 5 touchdowns or whatever it is, and he's not.
He's got a toe injury.
So I was just happy with what I got. I was just shocked that I got what I got, and so Gibson owners got to be happy, especially for the last 2 games. I mean, he's finding end zones.
Yeah, I wasn't happy. I was pissed that
because you needed more.
I needed more. I'm down 7 points, and I had Gibson and Cooper, so I needed them both to do well.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that he didn't play in the second half really hurt. But it's all good. It's all good. It's all about opportunities, and we get another week. to show what we got. So.
Yeah, the Cowboys again, 11-4, just a complete domination. Again, we talked about the defense, right? They had how many? 4 sacks on Heineke, 2 interceptions, and Trayvon Diggs had another interception. So fucking DeMarcus Lawrence had that return for a touchdown.
That was insane.
They have so many. They have so many players on defense that are like X factor players, right? Like, yes, they have their holes, but they have guys that make fucking plays. And DeMarcus Lawrence is an afterthought after you think about, Micah Parsons and Randy Gregory, etc. And DeMarcus Lawrence is still so fucking good. So, dude, complete performance. If they somehow beat the Cardinals next week, then I think it's officially safe to be like the Dallas Cowboys are probably one of the scariest teams in the NFL.
Yeah, they already are. I still something about Aaron Rodgers I can't get over.
Yep.
Like since week 1, I'm like, fuck the Packers. God damn it. Here they come again. And I still think as long as Aaron Rodgers is on the field, they're still the team to beat.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, you can't overlook this.
No.
This type of beatdown doesn't happen in the NFL. Teams are not this bad ever.
Especially in a divisional game. Especially when you just played each other a couple weeks ago, and the football team got embarrassed then too. So you would have thought they would have had some kind of extra mojo. But dude, no. The Cowboys came in here, took care of fucking business. They beat up on a team that they should have beat up on. Convincingly. And now they take on the Cardinals next week. Football team take on the Eagles. The Eagles are still fighting for a playoff spot, so the football team are going to play spoiler there. That takes us into the Monday night game that hasn't happened yet, guys. That's going to happen here in about under an hour. The Saints are at home. They're hosting the Dolphins. 2 teams, 7-7, still fighting for playoff spot, although the Saints are starting a 4th-string quarterback, Ian Book, out of Notre Dame, who is a rookie, and the Dolphins are winners of 6 straight, looking to win 7 in a row.
Yeah.
Fun fact. No team has ever lost 7 games in a row and then won 7 games in a row ever.
Wow.
The Dolphins are going to be the first team ever.
That's what it looks like.
Tell me why the Saints are favored by 3 here, if
I don't
I'm
know.
reading that right.
That's stupid. I don't get it.
That can't be right. There's no way. I refuse to believe that that's right.
I mean, are they still hoping Tua makes mistakes? Because
No, I'm just... That can't be right. Is that right? No, Miami's favored by 3. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
all right.
I knew I fucked that up.
Okay.
That could not be right. Yeah, Miami is favored by 3 in New Orleans. Typically, you don't see that. Over-under, very small line here, 38.5. It's actually moved to 37.5, so it looks like people are taking the under just because they're not expecting a lot of points. What are you guys expecting in this game?
Yeah, I'm expecting Waddle to be covered and Devontae Parker to get more targets there than Waddle. Because
if I was Lattimore, I would guard Parker.
You'd guard
bigger size, yeah.
Parker's he's a really good wide receiver.
Yeah.
He just gets hurt a lot. You don't get to see him very much. But Parker is right up there with the Amari Coopers. These receivers that they think they're the best, but they're not. But but any given Sunday they could play like the best receiver. Parker is like one of the CEOs of that category.
But Waddle's fast. He can get you that explosive 40-yarder touchdown and things like that.
It all depends on what their scheme is, right?
Right.
What the Saints typically do is they just shut down the deep threats, right?
Yeah.
So they allow all the inside stuff. And I feel like Waddle is, since he's quicker, he's faster, they're going to allow him to catch those, and they're probably going to prevent Parker from getting those 30-yard, 40-yard.
Yeah, my guess is Marshawn Lattimore is going to cover Parker because he's a bigger physical cornerback and Waddle's quick. So I don't think Lattimore is going to shadow him in the slot. Waddle's more of a slot guy. So if I had to guess, like you said, a lot of underneath throws is what Tua loves. That's why Waddle's a PPR machine.
Yeah.
He's going to catch a shit ton of balls.
Yeah.
But
Gesicki.
Gesicki. But your hope would be that Parker gets the 1 touchdown pass or one of the 2 touchdown passes.
Yeah. I need that.
But yeah, I mean, other than that, the Saints, again, Alvin Kamara is their entire offense right now. Unfortunately, we know their receivers aren't really anything, and now they're starting a 4th-string rookie quarterback. So,
yeah, get this, okay? Let's get this. The Saints have the 32nd overall passing offense, right? They're playing against the Dolphins defense, who just blitzes the hell, the number 1 team in blitzing, right? Playing with the 4th-string quarterback. That just screams death. That just screams 0 points by the Saints offense. That's what I see. Okay, the Saints offense isn't that good either. Their passing is 32nd, but overall they're 31st. So their run game hasn't been so much because when you know a team's so one-dimensional, you just stop the run, right? And you just let these quarterbacks throw and just hope for the best. But here's the difference, right? When you have a new quarterback that you have no film on, you don't even know what they're good at. You don't even know what they're bad at. So that kind of favors the new quarterback in a sense. It's like the unknown factor.
Yep.
Because we don't know who this guy is. We don't know how he plays. We don't know anything about him. Right. So it'll be interesting to see what this guy's got.
Yeah, I wonder if the defense can get some interceptions in their own 20, 30 yard line, and then some Brant Mahar kicks is what I'm hoping for. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, you could get that. That's very. I mean, Tua's. He's been beating down on a lot of bad teams.
Yeah.
So now he gets to play a good defense for the first time in 6 games.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
we'll see
I'm thinking script flipped. Even if Tua can't do a lot, I just think the Saints are going to put the Miami Dolphins offense in very opportunistic situations, because I don't see a situation where Ian Book doesn't turn the football over. Like, I just don't see it. The Dolphins, what are they, number 1 or number 2 in blitzing or something? They're
number
one of the
2.
Yeah. So they're
number 1.
Number 1. So
the
they're
Patriots are number 2, right?
Yeah,
I don't know,
or the Ravens. But nonetheless, they're going to be blitzing all over a fucking rookie quarterback who has not sniffed the field in the NFL yet. Yeah. It's going to be really, really tough. And here's a really funny, random, fun fact about Ian Book. The last 3 quarterbacks Ian Book has faced are all currently in the NFL. You guys guess.
What?
Say that again.
The last 3 quarterbacks he's faced in Ian Book's last 3 starts, his last 3 starts, which would have been in college last year, are all NFL quarterbacks this year.
Joe Burrow?
Wrong.
Baker Mayfield?
Wrong.
Okay.
Last year. Come on.
Yeah.
Last year.
Huntley?
No.
Dang, I try to go for.
You guys need to go less like wild card and more like
more big known players. What about Trevor Lawrence?
Yep, that's one.
Oh,
he lost 34-10 in the ACC title game.
Zach Wilson?
Wrong.
David Smills?
Wrong.
Who else is there? Last year?
Yeah, the new quarterbacks.
Well, actually, so 2 of these starts are last year, and then one of them was
the year before.
The year before.
Joe Burrow?
No, you already guessed that.
You already guessed that one, dude.
Man,
one quarterback is literally playing against him tonight.
The Tua.
Yeah, so Tua's one, and then the third guy is Mac Jones.
Oh wow.
Who?
Mac Jones.
Who?
So yeah, Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, and Tua Tagovailoa are his last 3 starts. Lost to Trevor Lawrence 34-10 in the ACC title game. Lost to Mac Jones in the college football semis 29-37.
And then lost
to Tua. Yeah.
All right, well, redemption time. We're all here. We're all here in the NFL. That doesn't matter anymore, right?
Yeah. So yeah, Dolphins favored by 3. Should be a fun game here. A lot of playoff implications from a fantasy perspective. I got the Dolphins defense, which I'm benching because I've already won, but you have a lot on the line. So good luck to whoever's out there and has a lot of implications in fantasy. That wraps up this week's games. Let's kick it into studs and duds. Shove it. I'll let you kick us off.
Yeah, so my stud is the guy who I repeated twice and said his name 2 times.
He's all up on your mind.
Yeah, he is. Joe Burrow with 38.1 fantasy points. He had 525 yards passing. I mean, that guy just didn't take his feet off the gas pedal, like I said earlier, and just killed it. I mean, so many good targets, so many good throws. Yeah, you get the stud this week. My dud is going to be Keenan Allen. Charges against the Texans, only 5.5 points, on 4 receptions on 35 targets. So 35 yards on 4 receptions on 6 targets. So just didn't do really well. Dud performance for Keenan Allen.
Yeah, in fantasy football playoffs, in a very opportunistic match against the Texans, you're probably expecting big things from Keenan Allen. That's fucking Dudley as fuck. Shashout, what about you?
I'm going to give my stud medal of the week to A.J. Brown. Coming out of nowhere, injured. People don't expect stuff like this from people that just get injured and come back from that. So catching the highest percentage of balls for any player in that team the whole year, catching 11 passes for 145 yards and 26 fantasy points, you get the stud award. Dud award, Tyreek Hill. It's not even your fault. Your team is just too good, and sometimes they don't need you. And when you don't get used, you're a dud because there's fantasy owners out here that are waiting for you to go off.
Yeah, probably a lot of playoff and maybe finals players that have Tyreek Hill on their roster. So expecting a bounce back week from him next week, hopefully. My stud this week, Justin Jackson, guy that fills in for Austin Eckler, fills in very, very nicely. Austin Eckler went on his podcast and said Justin Jackson was a must start this week in fantasy. What did I do? I benched him. What did you do? You benched him. What did you do? You dropped him, and then you picked him up and benched him. He had 30.2 fantasy points, 11 carries only, 64 yards, 2 touchdowns, 8 catches for 98 yards. Dude, it's like Eckler 2.0.
Yeah.
Like Eckler's gone, we're going to use the next running back the exact
players.
same way, dude. 30.2 fantasy points. You're the stud of the week. George Kittle, you are my dud, man. Fantasy football playoffs, leading into a finals, and you have 2 catches and 21 yards, 3.1 points after just going off the last several weeks. So
that 95-yard drive where 49ers scored a touchdown, you know how many catches Kittle had?
0.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah,
it's just very unexpected. So we expect more from you, George Kittle. I know your team lost. That's probably why they lost. So you're my dud.
One more breaking news before we move on. Rams are placing Darrell Henderson on the IR, so he's done.
Wow.
Okay. All right, that's huge. Sony Michel, Cam Akers. Yeah, that's big. That's big. I have to pick up Sony Michel somewhere. Yeah, we'll have to look into that. But that's the episode, guys. Do you guys have anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, shout out to the winners of the contest. 10 Bitcoins, 20,000 stats.
Not 10 Bitcoins. Oh, yeah.
$10 worth of Bitcoin.
10 Bitcoins?
Oh, man.
Wow, where do you think money's fucking coming from?
No, but...
Computer.
Yeah, we have one more week of fantasy implication podcasts, and after that, we're moving on to other football podcasts.
Well, I have 2 weeks. My stupid fucking matchup's 2 weeks.
Oh, okay, all right, well then we'll just wait.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Some people probably are running through week 18, which is not ideal, but unfortunately that is for me. But if you win tonight,
playoffs
next week you are going to be in the finals against you.
Oh man,
only playbook finals. That's going to be fucking awesome. That's going to be fucking badass.
Yeah, there's a lot that needs to happen for me to get there. So
right now, projection wise, statistically, in a forecasting world, you are forecasted to make it.
When you're up 10 points, it's always the better position.
You'd rather be you than
because
him.
Things could happen.
Yeah,
things could happen.
Yeah. But yeah, it should be exciting. Appreciate you guys joining us. Episode 32. We ran through week 16. I think we're going to have to record on Friday this week just because Thursday there's something going on. So Friday will be the next time we see you guys. Again, the three guys, Ben, David, and Ashray, we're going to message you guys separately on one of the social media platforms. Thank you guys for engaging. Congrats to the winners. Hope you guys have a happy New Year. Actually, we'll probably see you guys before the New Year. Yeah, Friday. Yeah. Friday's New Year's Eve. Yeah, we'll see you guys on New Year's Eve. We're the only playbook. Thank you so much.